Good evening. This is the 50th meeting of the 73rd term of your Baltimore City Council. Is now called to order. As a reminder to members of the press, members of our community, please ensure that you have a mask on at all times. The council is fully vaccinated as well as boosted. Some members have elected not to wear their mask at this time. And please ensure that you turn off any electronic devices or at a minimum put them on silent. Our invocation this evening will be delivered by Reverend Brandon McAfee of Historic St. John AME Church in Baltimore City. Reverend McAfee, the pleasure is mine. Please deliver the invocation.
All right, let us pray. Gracious and eternal God, we come before you this evening just to say thank you. We thank you for being our God and the God of our understanding. We thank you, Lord, for the different faith traditions gathered among us. And we thank you for bringing us safely to this February session of the Baltimore City Council. Thank you for our Mayor, Brandon Scott, our Council President, Nick Mosby, and all the council members assembled here today. God, as we begin this meeting, we ask that you preside over this meeting. We invite your presence into this space and for you to have your way. Lord, if anyone knows our great city and what it needs, it is you. Thus, we ask you to allow this body to be sensitive to your spirit and the spirit that leads them. Lead and guide them in all decision-making. We ask that this not just be another meeting. Provide fresh vision and insight. As the council moves through this agenda, allow decisions to be made that are in the best interest of all Baltimoreans, especially those who are marginalized and disenfranchised in our city. Help us to never neglect the least of these. Use this meeting as an opportunity for progress and uplift. And God, while we understand that there may be competing agendas, we ask that you allow there to be a spirit of cooperation and unity. Use this body to make a change and a difference. Use them to impact lives and communities. Use them to do your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Reverend McAfee. At this time, we will state the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For our showcase this evening, it is my pleasure to welcome Ms. Thelma Graham from the Greenmount East Leadership. Greenmount East Leadership works to inspire youth to reach their fullest potential by providing them with the skills and knowledge necessary for the journey of adulthood and success.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I come giving you greetings from Greenmount East Leadership Project and my organization, Career Development and Leadership Coaching. Coach Zeke, Isaiah Johnson could not be here tonight, but he wanted to thank you guys. We are Greenmount East Leadership Project. What we do is we work with youth in the Greenmount East Leadership community. We help youth to basically just have mentorship, overall career development skills to push them forward into adulthood. A lot of the things that we see in the city and a lot of the trauma that we see is based on the fact that our kids don't have mentorship and they don't have anything that, we're not counter-offering anything that the streets is offering, which is a way to make money. So we're helping our youth to get overall career development so that they can get jobs, make money, and so that they're not low-hanging fruit for the people in the street, because what they're doing is they're using our kids to do these crimes because they want to make money. They don't have the resources in their home. We also take them out to different businesses in the city, and we take them out of town. Recently, we did an 8 days of giving where each day we worked on a different topic. One day was mental health. One day was overall fitness and nutrition. We want to teach our kids how to eat well. We also did a grooming day where we groomed them, showed them that self-care is important right now. A lot of us are suffering right now because we didn't learn about self-care until just this very moment within the last couple of years. We want to teach them early to start taking care of themselves. Also, we just work with them on movie night. And our thing is to bridge the gap between the community and our youth. Also, their parents, getting their parents involved. We go into the schools and make sure that they have support. And so we are doing this totally self-funded because we didn't want to wait until we had the funding to do the work, because we both came from challenging backgrounds. I'm from Cherry Hill, and Coach Zeke is from Greenmount East, and we just wanted to make sure that we gave back what we had, which was overall mentorship and support. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Ms. Graham, is there a website or social media presence so folks can check you out?
Yes, so there are two. Greenmount Leadership is on Instagram, also Greenmount East Leadership .org, and then Career Development and Leadership Coaching. We are CDLC_Inc. on Instagram, and also on the web, we're CDLCinc.org. Thank you, guys.
Again, thank you so much, Ms. Graham, for joining us, and folks will look out for the Greenmount East Leadership. At this time, Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
President Mosby, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Conway, Schleifer, Middleton, Torrance, Burnett, Bullock, Porter, Costello, Stokes, Glover, Ramos. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Now we will proceed to adoption of the journal.
Mr. President, the journal for the January 23rd, 2023 proceedings are on the council members' desk.
Without objection, the journal will be adopted. Hearing and seeing none, the journal is adopted. Bills signed by the mayor can be found at the beginning of page 2 of the agenda for tonight. Next up, pursuant to Baltimore City Code, Article 1, Section 1-4, I'm recommending council members to comprise the Committee of Legislative Investigations to hear from the administrations regarding their analysis on the control of our underground conduit system. I recommend the following council members to make up of the committee: Madam Vice President Sharon Green Middleton, Chairman Costello, Chairman Schleifer, Chairman Stokes, and Chairwoman McCray. Chairman Costello will be the chair. I'm recommending for him to be the chair. And for vice chair will be Madam Vice President. At this time, is there a motion to approve the committee and its composition? Second. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The committee is now approved. The first meeting of the committee will take place on this Thursday, and you will hear additional information from the chair. We'll now turn to executive nominations. Madam Clerk, if you could please read the first nomination.
EA 23-0176, Jessica Bell Brown, Member, Public Art Commission, District 7.
This nomination has been signed to Rules and Oversight. Madam Clerk.
EA 23-0177, Andre Meslin, Member, Public Art Commission, District 11.
This nomination has been assigned to Rules and Oversight. Madam Clerk.
EA 23-0178, Evan Richardson, Member, Public Art Commission, District 3.
This nomination has been assigned to Rules and Oversight. We will now turn to bills to be introduced. Madam Clerk, if you could please read in the first bill.
City Council Bill 23-0347, Department of Business Licensing and Consumer Protection, for the purpose of creating the Department of Business Licensing and Consumer Protection as an independent city agency, providing for the leadership and staffing of the department, establishing the department's purpose, powers, and duties, creating the Commission on Business Licensing and Consumer Protection, providing for the membership of the Commission, establishing the purpose, powers, and duties of the Commission, transferring the administration of certain business licenses to the department, repealing certain obsolete boards, providing for a special effective date, and generally relating to business licensing and consumer protection. Sponsors Dorsey Burnett.
Thank you. At this time, we'd like to recognize the sponsor of the bill, Councilman Dorsey. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Bill 230347 will centralize and strengthen oversight of the nearly 24 business types that are already regulated by the city, and establish new enforcement powers to hold them accountable and to enable us to better regulate new businesses as we may see fit going forward. This Department of Business Licensing and Consumer Protection will serve as a central repository for consumer reports of deceptive and unfair business practices and grant the city the power to pursue legal action against violators of local and state consumer protections laws. Mr. President, at present, we have nearly 24 different laws on the books in the Consumer Protections article and the Licensing and Regulation article, and regulating various types of businesses and business practices. The consumer protections aspect of this really doesn't have any home in city government, and the licensing aspect of things is housed currently in the finance department. Essentially, over time, we have developed a whole bunch of laws without any particularly centralized place of accountability to make sure that these laws are effective and effectively upheld. And so establishing this independent department would put us in step with other jurisdictions like Montgomery County and Howard County, who are already exemplifying best practices here in Maryland, as well as others throughout the country, in establishing an independent consumer protections office. And one of the really, I think, important aspects of this bill also is the way in which it empowers the city, particularly through the law department, to pursue litigating action against bad actors. Right now, the city law department can file affirmative litigation in cases where the city itself is harmed, but where our citizens are harmed by actors by businesses, corporations, who violate city laws, the city does not have the authority to pursue affirmative litigation against them for harming our citizens. This bill will put us in step with many other jurisdictions who have already been, like us, enabled by the state of Maryland to grant ourselves this authority to enter into this kind of affirmative litigation, to go forward on behalf of the citizenry, to stop companies that are engaging in predatory, high-price products and practices, and pursuing people with financial scams. So I want to thank the law department for working with me on drafting this. I want to thank the finance department for their engagement in how we can best transfer those services from the finance department into a place that is more suited and into an office that is fully focused around this mission of consumer protections and licensing. And I want to thank our friends in the Department of Legislative Reference, Roz in particular. Thank you so much for putting so much work into this. I believe the largest bill drafted by the department since Avery Eisenstark's retirement, which is a little bit like Spinal Tap being referred to as the loudest band in England, but nonetheless, an important thing I want to note for appreciation. I also want to thank my colleague, Councilman Burnett, for working on this with me, along with his staff, for the many months we've had this in the works. And Mr. President, I want to ask for any of our other colleagues here to please sign on as co-sponsors of this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
No, thank you. Thank you for bringing this bill forward. Are there any additional co-sponsors? I see the hand raised of Councilman Cohen, Councilwoman Ramos, Councilman Bullock, Councilwoman Porter, Chairman Conway, Councilman Torrance. Thank you. This bill has been assigned to Rules and Oversight. Madam Clerk, if you could please read in the next bill.
City Council Bill 23-0348, rezoning 4420 Loch Raven Boulevard for the purpose of changing the zoning for the property known as 4420 Loch Raven Boulevard, Block 3971A, Lot 58, is outlined in red on the accompanying plat from the R4 zoning district to the C2 zoning district. Sponsor Dorsey.
This bill has been assigned to Economic Community Development. Madam Clerk.
City Council Bill 23-0349, rezoning 1600 East Arlington Avenue and North Side Arlington Avenue, Northwest Corner Hillen Road, for the purpose of changing the zoning for the properties known as 1600 East Arlington Avenue and North Side Arlington Avenue, Northwest Corner Hillen Road, Block 52670, lots 076 and 076A, is outlined in red on the accompanying plat from the R5 zoning district to the C2 zoning district. Sponsor Dorsey.
This bill has been assigned to Rules and Oversight. Madam Clerk.
City Council Bill 23-0350, rezoning 420 North Haven Street for the purpose of changing the zoning for the property known as 420 North Haven Street, Block 6265A, Lot 011, as outlined in red on the accompanying plat from the I2 zoning district to the C3 zoning district. Sponsor McCray.
This bill has been assigned to Economic Community Development. Madam Clerk.
City Bill 23-0351, rezoning 1801 to 1807 Bloomingdale Road, and 1800 to 1816 North Rosedale Street for the purpose of changing the zoning for the properties known as 1801 to 1807 Bloomingdale Road, Block 2427, Lots 032 to 035, and 1800 to 1816 North Rosedale Street, Block 2427, Lots 001 to 009, is outlined in red on the accompanying plat, from the R8 zoning district to the C1 zoning district. Sponsored Torrance.
This bill has been assigned to ECD. Madam Clerk.
City Council Bill 23-0352, City Property, renaming playground and pavilion at Alhambra Park after Phyllis Gilmore for the purpose of changing the name of the playground and pavilion at Alhambra Park, located at 5200 Alhambra Avenue, to the Phyllis Gilmore Playground and Pavilion. Sponsor Conway.
At this time, the body would like to recognize Chairman Conway. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Really, really excited and honored to be presenting this bill today on behalf of someone that I truly do value and in many ways look up to, Ms. Phyllis Gilmore. She's actually here today. Ms. Phyllis, can you stand up, please? So Phyllis is a truly invaluable community leader in my district, in the 4th District, and frankly across the city. She's really not shy about stepping up for leadership positions and stepping up to volunteer wherever possible to help our city. She currently serves as the president of the Woodbury-McCabe Neighborhood Association. She's also the vice president of the York Road Partnership, and she's also the vice chair of the Public Safety Advisory Commission. She is everywhere all across the city. She works incredibly hard, but her work is really part of the reason why Woodbury-McCabe is where it is today. And for those that know the community know that it's come a long way and has a bright future ahead of it, in part thanks to Ms. Gilmore. Everyone really knows her. Everyone in the neighborhood knows her, and that goes down all the way even to Mayor Scott. She's not shy about whipping folks into action, be that agencies, council members, or even mayors. And so really looking forward to getting this passed. She's one of my biggest partners and one of my biggest supporters in getting things done across the district, and really just excited to really honor her in this moment, and look forward to standing by her side as we continue to fight the good fight in the 4th District. So thank you, Ms. Phyllis, and looking forward to getting this passed on your behalf. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And unless there's any objection, we're going to extend floor privileges to Ms. Gilmore. Can we come and take a picture? We will. At this time, are there any additional co-sponsors? I see the hand raised of Councilwoman Ramos. This bill will be assigned to Economic Community Development Committee. Next bill, Madam Clerk.
City Council Bill 23-0353, Community Reinvestment and Reparations Commission, for the purpose of creating the Community Reinvestment and Reparations Commission to distribute certain funds in accordance with state law, establishing the purpose and duties of the commission, providing for the composition of the commission, requiring certain reports, defining certain terms, requiring certain individuals file certain financial disclosures, and generally relating to the Community Reinvestment and Reparations Commission. Sponsor Mosby.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This bill was spawned from a state bill that passed last session to ensure that as we move closer and closer to legalization of marijuana, that the draconian policy that have impacted communities all across our state, but particularly right here in the city of Baltimore, East and West Baltimore, that the failed war on drugs that targeted communities that disproportionately provided harm to certain communities as marijuana continues to move down the path of legalization, that those communities are factored into the growth of marijuana. So this will be a commission of community leaders. The way the current configuration, it allows council members to select individuals in your community. Ultimately, it'll be with the approval of the mayor, and it will be that body that will be responsible for assigning or awarding the state funds that will come into the city. Obviously, Baltimore City, in comparison to the rest of the state, is a very unique jurisdiction in the state, and the expectation is Baltimore City would receive a large percentage of the funds associated with this. So with that, this bill has been assigned to ECD as well. Madam Clerk.
City Council Bill 23-0354, Administrative Procedure Act revisions for the purpose of clarifying the role of the city administrator, the Department of Law, and the Department of Legislative Reference in reviewing proposed regulations prior to public notice and comment. Revising certain provisions regarding the initial submission period for a proposed regulation, revising certain provisions regarding agency noncompliance with the Administrative Procedure Act, providing for a special effective date, and generally relating to the role of the city administrator, the Department of Law, and the Department of Legislative Reference in the review and approval of proposed regulations. Sponsor Mosby.
This bill has been assigned to Rules and Legislative Oversight. At this time, we'll turn to resolutions. Madam Clerk.
City Council Resolution 23-0154R, Informational Hearing, Department of Public Works, Services, and Vacancies, for the purpose of inviting representatives from the Department of Public Works and the Office of the City Administrator to brief the City Council on the status of services provided by the Department of Public Works, including maintenance processes for water main breaks, the installation of new water meters, trash and recycling services, and service vehicles that require replacement, as well as position vacancies throughout the Department of Public Works, in addition to any mitigation strategies that may be employed to address these issues. Sponsor Stokes.
This bill has been assigned to Education, Workforce, and Youth. Madam Clerk.
City Council Resolution 23-0155R, Request for City Action, Increase the salary range for sanitation workers. For the purpose of expressing support for the essential workers of American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFS-CME, Council 67, and Local 44 in their negotiation of a new contract for sanitation workers, and calling on the mayor and Department of Public Works to improve working conditions for sanitation workers, raise their pay, and match or surpass the starting salary of local private contractors. Sponsors Cohen and Schleifer.
At this time, the body would like to recognize sponsor of the bill, Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, colleagues. Today, we are calling on Mayor Scott and the Department of Public Works to raise the wages and improve the working conditions of our frontline sanitation workers. In 2020, Councilman Schleifer and myself, the council, negotiated an end to all part-time sanitation positions. Those workers, some of whom were being paid as little as $13 an hour, received an immediate raise of over $5 additional per hour. They also got bonuses and benefits like health care. However, it has become glaringly obvious that we are simply not paying enough to grow or even retain our workforce. If we want to restore weekly recycling, like our residents deserve, we need to invest in our own workforce. More importantly, these essential workers deserve it. Through the worst days of the pandemic, solid waste workers risked life and limb to pick up our trash. In studies, sanitation workers consistently rank among the most dangerous jobs in America. When I'm at home putting my kids to bed, these folks are out in the alley doing the work. Every day, these workers show up for Baltimore. We must show up for them. I recognize that there are real challenges. The Rubicon report commissioned by DPW states that in order to return to weekly recycling pickup, we need to increase staffing levels of CDL drivers and laborers by 73%. Yet when we speak to the workers themselves, they tell us that they are stressed out and barely making it. Unlike many of our agencies, the vast majority of solid waste workers live in Baltimore. When we invest in them, we're investing back into our city. We cannot continue to lose talent to the private sector and surrounding suburbs. Waiting until 2026 is not acceptable. We support AFSCME in their negotiations and look forward to working with the administration to make this happen. And with your permission, Mr. President, I'd like to kick it to my colleague, Councilman Schleifer.
Councilman Schleifer, the floor is yours. Chairman Schleifer, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. This call to action is so important, especially on days like today, when $15 million of taxpayer money that should be going towards our DPW workforce is instead going towards outsourcing solid waste functions to community groups and further privatizing our solid waste departments. We should be using that money to address long-term staffing issues and infrastructure issues at DPW instead of this short-term Band-Aid. It is insulting to the hard-working men and women of DPW when they see outside entities buying shiny new equipment and hiring employees who we so desperately need with that money. That money should be going towards addressing our equipment needs and improving working conditions for our DPW workers. Now is the time to do the right thing and invest in our workers and their working conditions, which will also fix our retention issues that have been plaguing the city. The residents of Baltimore deserve great and consistent city services, and investing in-house in our infrastructure and our employees is the right way to do this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Are you going to ask to suspend the rules for immediate adoption? Oh. It's on the floor. It's, are there any objections to suspending the rules for immediate adoption? Hearing and seeing none, you have to move the resolution forward.
Move the resolution.
At this time, Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
President Mosby,
Aye.
Cohen,
Aye.
McCray, Dorsey, Conway, Schleifer, Middleton, Torrance, Burnett, Bullock, Porter, Costello, Stokes, Glover, Ramos.
The ayes have it. The resolution has been adopted. Madam Clerk, if you could please read in the next resolution.
City Council Resolution 23-0156R, requests for state action, emergency rental assistance, for the purpose of calling upon the Governor and Maryland General Assembly to allocate $175 million in fiscal year 2024 to help an estimated 17,000 Maryland families avoid eviction. Sponsor Burnett.
At this time, the body would like to recognize Councilman Burnett. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. So last week we had a hearing in the Community and Economic and Community Development Committee on the status of the rental assistance program run by the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success. We learned a lot about the good things that were happening to prevent evictions, particularly at the height of the pandemic when a lot of families were really trying to figure out what they were going to do, how they were going to pay their rent every month, how they were going to stay in their house, and what was next. And so a lot of folks, I know my office was inundated with calls, I'm sure everyone else's was as well, for people looking for help, and thousands of families did receive that help. We also learned in that hearing, however, that as of February 1st, the application portal was closed to accepting more applicants, but we do know that the demand for assistance still remains. And so we found it was important to join other jurisdictions from across the state of Maryland in asking the state and federal government to restore funding for this program so that we can continue to provide that eviction prevention support for families who need it, because while the height of the pandemic may be behind us, the economic impact still remains. And so this is a crucial lifeline for many families in Baltimore and across the state of Maryland. And so just asking for us to ask the General Assembly and the federal government to continue funding this program and move forward with it. And so with that, Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the rules for immediate adoption.
Thank you. Without objection, the rules will be suspended. Hearing and seeing none.
And I would like to move the resolution for immediate adoption, Mr. President.
Thank you. At this time, Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
President Mosby,
Aye.
Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Conway, Schleifer, Middleton, Torrance, Burnett, Bullock, Porter, Costello, Stokes, Glover, Ramos.
The ayes have it. The motion is approved and the resolution is adopted. Next up is consent calendar. You can find it in Section A, the back of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? It's been moved and properly seconded. I'm sorry, was there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries and the consent calendar is now approved. Next up, we will go to bills on second reader. Madam Clerk, if you could please read. No, before we do that, if I could recognize Chairman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move we read short titles for second and third reader for the duration of the meeting.
Without objection, we'll be in short titles for the duration of the meeting. Hearing and seeing none, we are in short titles. Madam Clerk, if you could please read the first bill on second reader.
City Council Ordinance 22-0284, Sarah Ann Street Historic District.
At this time, the body would like to recognize Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bill number 22-0284. This bill was heard on January 24th, 2023. I move the bill is favorable.
It's been moved and probably seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The bill will be printed for third reading. Next up, Madam Clerk.
City Council Resolution 22-0135R, informational hearing, code enforcement, non-residential property.
The body would like to recognize Madam Vice President. The floor is
Thank
yours.
you, Mr. President. Bill number 22-0135R was also heard on January 24th, 2023. I move the bill favorable as amended.
It's
I'm sorry. I
do you
move
have
the
to
bill
adopt the
favorable.
findings?
I move the bill favorable.
Wasn't amended, okay.
No amendments.
It's a motion on the floor to move the bill favorable. It's been moved and probably seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The bill will be printed for third reading. Madam Clerk.
City Council Ordinance 22-0266, sale of property, 1200 North Fremont Avenue.
At this time, I'd like to recognize Chair of the Committee, Chairman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably.
Is there a second? It's been moved and probably seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The bill will be printed for third reading. Madam Clerk.
City Council Ordinance 22-0268, sale of property, 800 Poplar Grove Street.
Chairman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably.
It's been moved and probably seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The bill will be printed for third reading. Tonight, we do not have any bills on third reading, so we're going to jump right into committee announcements. Chairs, when you hear your committee, please stand and let us know what's going on. The first up, Madam Vice President, ECD.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Economic and Community Development Committee would like to announce the following hearings, which will be held in the Clarence Du Burns Chambers at City Hall and online via WebEx. And we'll start with Bill number 22-0214 will be heard on February 7th, 2023 at 2:01 p.m. That is a voting session for the franchise underground snow melt system. Sponsor Councilmember Stokes. And also, I'm just re-announcing another voting session at 2 p.m. That's Bill number 22-0204, and that was the voting session for the vacant structures 311 complaint fines. Sponsor the council president. And also on March 7th, 2023 at 2 p.m., we will have a voting session for Bill number 22-0101R, and that's the informational hearing, the mayor's recommendations, 30-day review of strategies to eliminate vacant and abandoned properties, and the sponsor is Councilmember Ramos. And also on March 7th, 2023 at 2:05 p.m., we will hear Bill number 22-0140R. That's the informational hearing on permit reforms. And again, the sponsor is Councilwoman Ramos. So we will have both of those informational hearings on March 7th.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Next up, EWY, Education, Workforce, and Youth. Chairman Stokes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend rules 10-3 to announce a hearing.
Without any objection, the rules will be suspended. Hearing and seeing none, the rules are suspended. Chairman Stokes.
The Education, Workforce, and Youth Committee will hold a hearing on Council Resolution 23-015R, informational hearing, Department of Public Works Services and Vacancies on Thursday, March the 16th, 2023 at 10 a.m. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chairman Stokes. Next up, Health, Environment, and Technology. Chairwoman McCray.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Health, Environment, and Technology Committee will hold a hearing for Resolution 22-0136R, informational hearing, status of the Baltimore City Municipal Identification Card Program on Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023 at 10:01 a.m. The hearing will be held in the council chamber and also through WebEx.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Next up, we're going to Public Safety Government Operations. Chairman Conway.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Safety and Government Operations Committee is canceling the following hearings for LO 22-0030, Legislative Oversight, Crime Reduction, and Violence Prevention on February 8th, 2023 at 1 p.m., February 22nd, 2023 at 1 p.m., March 22nd, 2023 at 1 p.m., and April 26th, 2023 at 1 p.m. The other hearings for the LO will proceed as scheduled. The committee will hear Bill 23-0329, Minor Curfew Conduct of Establishments Penalty, on Wednesday, March 1st, 2023 at 1 p.m. The committee will hear Bill 22-0256, Public Safety Apprenticeship Program Advisory Commission, on Wednesday, March 1st, 2023 at 1:01 p.m. The committee will hear Bill number 21-0074, Office of Emergency Management, Independent Agency, on Wednesday, March 15th, 2023 at 1 p.m. And the committee will hear LO 23-0032, Legislative Oversight on City Hiring of Day Laborers, on Wednesday, March 15th, 2023 at 1:01 p.m. And just for a little background on this legislative oversight, it is to discuss the concept of leveraging day laborers to fill holes in our city agencies, realizing that we have significant vacancies across the city, especially in some of our major agencies such as DPW, Rec and Parks, and otherwise. This strategy has been used in other cities, such as Austin, in order to meet the demand for services that the city is supposed to supply when we don't quite have the labor. So looking forward to that discussion, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much. Next up, we're going to Rules and Legislative Oversight. Chairman Schleifer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Rules and Legislative Oversight Committee will hold a hearing on EA 23-0158 this Thursday, February 9th at 4:45 p.m. To hear the appointment of Matthew Matt Campbell to the Convention Center as the director. We'll also hold a hearing on February 23rd at 5 p.m. for the following nominations to the Public Arts Commission: EA 23-0174, Jazz Ehrenberg; EA 23-0176, Jessica Bell Brown; EA 23-0177, Andre Mazzeline; EA 23-0178, Eva Richardson, all beginning at 5 p.m. On the same day, beginning at 5 p.m., we will hold a hearing for EA 23-0169, Louis Cardona; EA 23-0170, Maria Daniela Priesthoff; EA 23-0171, Louis Espinoza; EA 23-0172, Desiree Vasquez; EA 23-0173, Whitney Visker. And these are for the nominations to the Baltimore Hispanic Commission. On the same day, February 23rd at 5 p.m., we will hold hearings for nominations to the Baltimore Women's Commission: EA 23-0164, Deborah Austin; EA 23-0165, Candace Everett; EA 23-0166, Casey Brent; EA 23-0167, Kimberly Heaven; and EA 23-0168, Linda Davis. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, and this is going to be a marathon, Ways and Means. Chairman Costello. He's getting all his notes prepared.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now would be the appropriate time to get a Snickers bar.
Correct.
Ways and Means Committee will reconvene tomorrow at 10 a.m. on Council Bill 22-0299, Tax Credits Historic Properties Application Extension. Ways and Means Committee will meet on Tuesday, February 21st at 10 a.m. for the following hearings. 22-0304, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Health Department in the amount of $310,000. Council Bill 22-0305, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Health Department in the amount of $1.5 million. Council Bill 22-0306, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Health Department in the amount of $32 million. Council Bill 22-0307, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Health Department in the amount of $35,000. Council Bill 22-0308, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of General Services in the amount of $750,000. Council Bill 22-0309, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of General Services in the amount of $675,000. Council Bill 22-0310, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of General Services, $15,200,000. I've said it enough. You figure I wouldn't mess it up. Council Bill 22-0311, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Finance in the amount of $1.9 million. Council Bill 22-0312, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Mayoralty Convention Center Hotel, in the amount of $5,375,000. Council Bill 22-0313, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Mayoralty Miscellaneous General Expenses, in the amount of $22,400,000. Council Bill 22-0314, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Planning in the amount of $485,000. Council Bill 22-0315, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Planning in the amount of $13,520,000. Council Bill 22-0316, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Public Works in the amount of $2,725,000. Council Bill 22-0317, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Transportation in the amount of $1,575,000. Council Bill 22-0318, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Transportation in the amount of $275,000. Council Bill 22-0319, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Transportation in the amount of $2,575,000. Council Bill 23-0328, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Office of Equity and Civil Rights in the amount of $2,388,311. Mr. President, I move to suspend Rules 10.2 and 10.3 to announce more hearings.
Without objection, Rules 10.2 and 10.3 will be suspended. Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Chair, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also on that same day, Tuesday, February 21st at 10 a.m., Ways and Means Committee will hold a hearing on Council Bill 23-0330, Supplementary General Fund Capital Appropriation, Department of Housing and Community Development in the amount of $6,600,000. Mr. President, I move to suspend Rules 10.2 and 10.3 to announce a hearing.
Rules 10.2 and 10.3 will be suspended without objection. Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Chair, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ways and Means Committee will hold, these are all on the same date and same time, February 21st at 10 a.m. Council Bill 23-0332, Supplementary General Fund Capital Appropriation, Baltimore City Convention Center in the amount of $1 million. Mr. President, I move to suspend Rules 10.2 and 10.3 to announce a hearing.
Without objection, Rules 10.2 and 10.3 will be suspended. Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Chair, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Same date and time. Council Bill 23-0333, Supplementary General Fund Capital Appropriation, Baltimore City Convention Center in the amount of $1,543,000. Mr. President, move to suspend Rules 10.2 and 10.3 to announce a hearing.
Mr. Chair, what's the date and time of the last bill?
Tuesday, February 21st, 10 a.m.
Thank you so much. At this time, without objection, we're going to suspend Rules 10.2 and 10.3. Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Chair, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ways and Means Committee will hold a hearing on February 21st at 10 a.m. Council Bill 23-0334, Supplementary General Fund Capital Appropriation, Baltimore City Convention Center, in the amount of $3,757,000. Mr. President, I move to suspend Rules 10.2 and 10.3 to announce a hearing.
Without objection, Rules 10.2 and 10.3 will be suspended.
Thank you,
Hearing
Mr.
and seeing none, please proceed, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ways and Means Committee will hold a hearing on February 21st at 10 a.m. on Council Bill 23-0340, Supplementary General Fund Capital Appropriation, Project 002758, in the amount of $9 million. Mr. President, as you noted earlier, the Legislative Investigations Committee will hold a hearing on Thursday, February 9th at 5 p.m. On Legislative Oversight 23-0031, Baltimore City's analysis on the sale or control of conduit system. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now we're going to jump into regular announcements. Are there any regular announcements? Chairman Stokes, the floor is yours.
This is for our Vice President. Just do a moment of silence for Miss Mary Christian, who is the mother of Kathy Christian that passed away. Thank you.
So sorry to hear that. At this time, we'd like to recognize Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to thank the council and the chamber. We make history in this chamber all the time, and we made history on Thursday. We had our first time that we had simultaneous translation and also translation from, we've had translation from the podium, but this was the first time we had simultaneous translation to make sure, and it was a clear message to the public that the council, city council is very committed to making sure that we're hearing from every member of our community. And so I want to thank Hosea for helping us out, the council president's office, and the chair to have the hearing, and all of my colleagues who were asking great questions. And we continue to hold our agencies accountable to make sure that we're not only hiring residents to make sure that our city government looks like the rest of our city, but also that anybody with any language barrier is able to access services. So it was a great hearing, and I just want to acknowledge the history that was made for our Hispanic community that day. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for your leadership on that issue, and I'll second that. Thank you to Hosea. You know, it's hard to do something the first time. Now we're going to have the formula down pat, but it was a historic hearing, but it's the type of hearings that we have to do to ensure that we're a more inclusive city. Are there any additional committee announcements? Hearing and seeing none, we would like to recognize the Vice President of City Council.
Before you stand, so I just want to also add to the moment of silence list, as I guess now the sole representative for the National Association of Counties for our state, we have representatives in the National Association of County around, you know, just about in every state. And I'm sure some of you heard the basically killing and murder of a new council member in the state of New Jersey. Her 30-year-old, her first term, was basically gunned down and murdered in front of her home. So there is a FBI investigation for that. And just all that to say how, you know, in public service, we really stay focused on our jobs and, you know, forget that, you know, there is danger out there even for local elected officials. And we're just in a time in our country that we just have to be safe and just very observant as in our surroundings as we continue to do our work. And so I want to add this council person's name on our moment of silence list, and her name is Eunice Dumford. And on that note, the next meeting of the City Council will be held on Monday, February 27th, 2023 at 5 p.m. And may we also include a moment of silence for all of the families that now for our city, there are 27 homicides to date, and also our continued deaths in our COVID and our opioid epidemic.
Thank you. This concludes this 50th meeting of your 73rd term of Baltimore City Council. Baltimore, we love you.